Hi everyone in the world of cloud computing, and welcome to episode 8 of the Cloud Computing Training Show with Brad Nelson and internationally recognized and world's #1 cloud industry expert and thought leader David Linthicum. This show is sponsored by Nelson Hilliard, cloud computing recruitment specialist placing great people in cloud, IoT, fintech and AI. And this week's show, David and I will be talking about that 71% of IT decision makers believe that a lack of cloud expertise in their organizations has resulted in a loss of revenue. Hi Dave, great to see you back and welcome to another Cloud Computing Training Show. Happy New Year to you, sir.
Happy New Year, too. This is a great topic. I'm lucky I found this week, and this is something I missed in 2017. We need to talk about it.
Absolutely right. Should training be looked at as a source of revenue for the Global 2000, Dave? And if so, what would be the likely return on investment this year and the next year?
Yeah, it should. And this was a study that was sponsored by Rackspace and a few other companies, and which was I didn't see until someone brought to my attention. And what it looks at is basically the opportunity costs that are lost in not having skilled people around that are able to take them into the cloud. And so what we have now, at least in the United States, is a lot of companies that are looking to move into the cloud, and they do not have a lot of expertise around to go ahead and make it happen. So lacking that expertise and not having those training plans and those hiring plans is actually causing a loss of revenue. And so if you look at cloud, the ability to kind of, factor in agility and cost savings and all these sorts of things, which are really going to go down to the bottom line very quickly in some of these Global 2000 companies, they just can't get there in this pace that they're looking to get because they don't have the skilled professionals around to make it happen. You as a recruiter should know this. And so ultimately, they're leaving money on the table, but ultimately it's lost revenue, the ability not to get into the markets that are really kind of value agility, such as in the high tech and the financial services space, the ability not to leverage new technology, not to process things at the speed of need. All these sorts of things are really kind of, coming to bear. And it's common practice for me when I'm working with some of the Global 2000 companies to sit down and figure out the missing ROI, so to speak. In other words, the delta between what you could be doing as a very efficient business based on the market that you're in with what you're doing now. And sometimes that's 20, 30, 40%. And of course, it's a question of how quickly they can pick up the technology and make it happen, but it's always limited by people. It's never limited by technology. If you think about it, we're able to do more with less and leveraging public cloud-based systems, for instance, but the ability to kind of understand how to make the migration, how to make the workloads move, how to make the security work, how to make the governance work, all these sorts of things really need to be hitting on all cylinders for all these things to work. And if you don't have those capabilities, then you're going to miss the mark and you're going to start losing revenue. And what they don't want to see is, somebody like me showing up and, pointing to an actual number as to what they're missing. But it looks like, Rackspace did it for me. And so, but the decision makers in there are really kind of, considering that there's lost revenue. And I think it was $250 million that the Rackspace report cited per organization that they're losing. It's a significant amount of change, and keeping in mind that everybody has equity in the company, they're incentivized for the success of the company. Their job is to return shareholder equity. It's absolutely insane that this is occurring right now. But, of course, you could go back 3 years from now, go back in time 3 years and, guys like me saying, hire cloud people, hire cloud people, hire cloud people. Not a lot of people were listening. Now that the demand is in place, we don't have enough skilled professionals that are there to fill in the roles, or enough training that's looking to occur to make this happen. I think training is kind of key to all this. And we got some companies out there that are in trouble. Their stakeholders are mad. Their shareholders are mad because ultimately they're leaving lots of money on the table and they know it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a similar point as well, is looking at recruitment within the cloud computing world. Is how is it perceived within the organization with regards to the use of budget? Is it an investment or is it a cost? And that immediately you can establish the mindset trend from that point onwards on the caliber of staff they're looking for, the type of recruitment companies they've used previously, and what sort of stigmas they carry forward with recruiting for good, cloud computing specialists. It's is it a cost or is it an investment? And I think that's the thing. Yes, obviously it's a cost, but are you looking at it as an investment? I think that's the most important thing. I think it was 4 in 10 IT decision makers are concerned that they cannot keep up with the pace of cloud technology's evolution and demands, which is quite a concern considering that's 40% right there.
Yeah, I think that it is an investment, and the reality is that we're at a point right now where cloud computing, and I understand that the skepticism that comes with any kind of technological shift. We saw, movement into distributed computing and push-based computing, and lots of things that were just kind of flash in the pans. But we saw some real, game changers, such as moving into the internet and things like that. Now moving into the cloud, and the companies that invested early and invested into the skills of the people that were looking to move, Amazon being one of them, for example, back in 2006 when they decided to build AWS, and Salesforce.com and other organizations that are looking to move in the space. Now the enterprises are looking to change, kind of their profiles in terms of their ability to get into these systems. It's absolutely a game changer. We talked about this before. They're not necessarily thinking strategically in how they're looking to move. And this is a reactionary thing. So in other words, they were probably aware that something was interesting coming, a couple, 3 years ago. Now they're in absolute reactive panic mode in these systems. And so in other words, they got to get these things up and running to keep up with the competitors. The competitors may have actually started recruiting people 2 years ago or training people 2 years ago, which is kind of a cool, smart thing to do. Now they're finding that they're being left behind in the market space, a la all the other companies that were left behind with the rise of the internet, back in the late 90s. And so we're seeing kind of the same kind of panic that is occurring right now as the demand is kind of outpacing the ability to supply these people and supply these skills. And we can train people, but you can't necessarily create a cloud engineer in a week. It's going to take several months, perhaps even a year, to get someone the on-the-job training skills as well as the kind of the core-based skills and certifications to make it happen. So we can't turn the tap on and have these folks, in essence, pop out at us. And so it's a tough situation to be in for these larger organizations that are looking to hire. And meantime, people know they're losing money, and they're actually creating metrics to figure out how this is happening. So the shareholders and the employees and even the leadership within the company are looking at these numbers each and every day in terms of the metrics. I guess the downside of having good data analytics is your ability to understand how quickly you're failing as well as quickly succeeding. And they're in absolute terror that this is going to take down the companies at this point. And I think they should be. I think there's probably most of the organizations are able to recover from this and able to get the people they need and train people up. But there's a lot of organizations that are going to fall by the wayside just kind of based on their inability to kind of move into new technological spaces and get the trained people they need to make it happen. So it's one thing to desire to make the move. It's another thing to want to invest in it and actually hire and train the people you need to make it happen. And that's the short-sightedness that's occurring right now.
Yeah, and I think there's a real concern around the organisation's ability to keep the pace with the cloud's evolution and demands. I think it was 2 in 5 of IT decision makers actually felt that. Nearly half of also stated that the organisation's size and just keeping pace was proving to be quite tricky. Tying themselves up in knots with just keeping up with everyone else if they've left it too late.
Well, I mean, you have to understand that you have to, as someone as a technology professional that's working with these Global 2000 companies, you have to understand the difference between flashes in the pan and the shiny objects, versus what's going to have real business value and where the business should be moving from. And that should be very apparent. And this cloud thing, wasn't something that occurred in a year. I mean, it took, at least 7 years of maturation before we kind of got from, hey, cool cloud stuff into what we are today and actually migrating workloads into the space. And you have to be able to look at this stuff as really kind of a trend that's able to provide value to the business and separate that from the flashes of the pan that are going on right now. And I see a lot of shiny objects, a lot of things that people should stay away from, versus kind of the core concept of moving your existing platforms and your services into something that's going to be far more agile and far more cost efficient and far more game changing, than moving to these specific tactical technologies. And it's conversations I have all the time. And at the end of the day, it may be my opinion versus somebody else's opinion. But ultimately, I would like to see someone have an opinion put a plan in place and start moving in that direction. Even if it's the wrong opinion, that's still an opinion. You're still moving in something that's going to be innovative and teaching the company as to what not to do as well as what to do. And I just see that lacking right now in some of the Global 2000 companies out there. And so they're going to get burned for it. And we're going to see a big normalization in the industry in the next 10 to 20 years. And, Brad, you and I can say we told you so.
Exactly right. We're wagging that finger. We told you so. We told you so. You didn't listen. Excellent, Dave. Well, thanks again for a wonderful cloud computing training show in the new year of 2018. Looking forward to an exciting year with lots of special guests coming on board as well, which would be fantastic. And it's been great, Dave. Thanks again for being part of the show.
It's my pleasure. You guys go out there and get smart on cloud computing.
As always, as always. Well, thanks again for watching, folks. Really appreciate your engagement with us on the cloud computing shows that we do. And remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel. And also you can follow David on Twitter, which is @David Linthicum, and myself @Nelson_Hilliard. Thanks again for watching. See you next week.